What is going on, everyone? So today I have the pleasure of interviewing someone who I've been following for quite some time now. He's someone who's excelled in both OA and the wholesale business model through Amazon FBA. So I'm sure it's going to provide great value to both new sellers and seasoned sellers. He consistently sells 100K or more each month on Amazon and also provides great quality information and content on his Instagram and YouTube at Oscar Martinez 817. Oscar, welcome, man. Thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, it's good to be here, man. Thanks.
Sir. Yeah, I've always been really impressed with your content, man. It's very authentic and real. And I think it's really important in a space where there's a lot of like disingenuous people,
Right.
and I think that's why you resonate with so many people, including myself. So mad props to you on that.
No, thanks, man. Yeah, I mean, I just try to be myself, giving out, realistic advice.
Yeah. I do want to ask though, like, do you ever like, does it ever rub some people the wrong way? Do you ever get like upset DMs and whatnot? Or not really?
I mean, I'm pretty sure it rubs people up, but I don't think they ever bother DMing me stuff. So,
Yeah. No, for sure. For sure. See, that kind of like I receive well with that. Whenever I see some of your content, I'm like, hell yeah, Oscar, tell them. But yeah. Again, mad props to you. So just could you just give like a quick introduction to the viewers about yourself and how you got started on Amazon? Were you already reselling in other avenues prior to Amazon, or just kind of summarize what led you to Amazon?
yeah. So, now that you think about it, because I know when I was looking at the questions, I actually was selling like on eBay before, which I kind of forget sometimes. But, yeah. So as far as e-commerce space, I did some eBay, Little Mercari, Poshmark, all those platforms. Just flipping like thrift stores, clearance clothes from like Dillard's or wherever. And also flipping just like Yu-Gi-Oh cards or whatever. Just little side money, but nothing like serious, right? So, but yeah, I mean, I stumbled upon Amazon in like 2019.
Okay.
Actually, saw a recommendation for like a wholesale drop shipping video from Noah Mensis. Shout out to him because he's been pretty helpful. And so yeah, I saw his stuff. He was talking about like LLCs, EIN numbers, something that I never saw anybody talk about. As far as in the e-com space. So I knew he was the real deal because he was actually talking about stuff like that. And yeah, I bought a little course from him. Signed up for an Amazon seller account. Sold a few items. And yeah, 2019, I kind of just played around, didn't take it too serious. I kind of just, whatever. But then 2020 came, started doing it a bit more. 2021, buckled down even harder. And then 2022, 23, yeah, now we're here, hitting those 6-figure months.
Yeah. So it's interesting. Whenever I talk to people, they never just go straight into Amazon. It's always they start selling on eBay first, or just flipping things during COVID, and kind of meander their way into Amazon. For me personally, I was always selling shoes back in the day. It was more so meetups and stuff, and then I kind of started venturing more so into Shopify and like drop shipping and stuff, which I feel like everyone tried that one time or another, right?
Right. Yeah.
But then that was just kind of difficult to even get started. And then went to sneaker selling, and that was actually profitable, especially during COVID. A lot of honestly,
Yeah.
any department of reselling, I think during COVID, you can make money on.
Oh
Even,
yeah. Big
I think
time.
COVID, I think people that were into reselling made a lot of money. Whereas on the other hand, a lot of people also lost their jobs and whatnot. But
Right.
we were in the reselling department during COVID. It was a good time. So interesting, awesome. So when you started selling on Amazon, was there a time where you were like, okay, this is much better than just selling on eBay? Like, because you were selling on eBay, what made you kind of stick with Amazon?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, I mean, with Amazon, it's like when you make your listings or jump on listings, you kind of like just back off someone else's listing already, right? So you don't have to like create your own images, titles, description, all of that.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas eBay, you have to put on that extra work into making the listing, right? Like you actually have to
Wow.
take your own photos. And so I saw that and I was like, that's pretty cool. You kind of just back up someone else's listing and you just, list them or whatever. And so I saw that it was much easier doing that. And then the FBA program too, never actually having to ship out orders on like eBay
Right.
where you have to send out your own stuff. And then just the velocity, right?
Yeah.
Like if I sell 10 items on eBay, I probably could in a month I could have sold them on Amazon in like a day or a week.
Okay.
So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's a really not talked about as much on eBay too. Like I'll liquidate a lot of things that are like used, like apparel or something that I can't sell on Amazon, but I have to use that. I have to spend a little bit on that ad, right? The ad percentage that eBay offers. Whereas juxtapose that with Amazon, we're selling on other brands, so we don't have to push ads. And I don't think people really appreciate that until they start their own business and they realize, well, no one knows what my fucking business is, and I gotta push out all this money onto ads. Whereas you don't got to worry about that on Amazon unless you're doing private label. But
Right.
it's a really good time to be selling, especially with Amazon in its full capacity now. Because 10 years ago, this wasn't even an option, right? You had to go eBay route or whatnot when you were selling stuff online or just meetups. So okay, so you started selling on Amazon. You said about 2019 you didn't take it seriously. So 2020, 2021, that's when you started getting more serious. I take it, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. And was it just that course? Because I know the course was more so wholesale drop shipping. What kind of led you to actual OA and getting serious with OA? Because that's what you did first, correct? OA prior to wholesale?
Well, it's weird. Actually, like I did a wholesale drop shipping, which also
Mhm.
kind of led me to explore regular wholesale with FBA. So I actually did wholesale, well, try to do wholesale second,
Uh-huh.
uh, but I quickly realized how much more capital you actually need for wholesale, and so I really got screwed up on one ASIN that I went pretty deep in because I was low on money too, right? Like I didn't start out with like thousands in credit line or capital or
Yeah.
anything, so
Yeah.
I just had like $1,000 to my name that I saved up, so
Mhm.
but yeah, so I did that into wholesale, got really screwed out on that one ASIN, and that made me take a step back and really uh, focus on like RA, and then slowly move into OA at the same time. Especially with COVID times, it was just one of those moments where
Right.
you kind of do both and really just crush it, right? So, but
Gotcha.
yeah, so I did a mixture of all three, and then kind of stuck with OA after that.
Okay. All right. So just to walk through that. So it was drop shipping wholesale, then you kind of moved over to OA. And that's when you got serious, was when you started getting to OA, correct? So
Yeah,
as it stands today, what is your primary Amazon FBA business model?
wholesale at this point, 90%
100%.
wholesale, and then like 10% OA.
Okay. I'd imagine during Q4, are you going to try to do a little bit more of OA?
I was, but since
Mhm.
we've been finding more suppliers now, we've just been finding more products. I might just try
Yeah.
to do all wholesale at this point, if I'm being honest.
Is it the same kind of concept? I don't. I mean, I doubt wholesaler or distributors are giving you huge discounts like you'd find with OA. But is there some sort of similarity in that during Q4?
As far as like discount,
Just discounts or just something like something where the distributor will, I don't know, be more lenient about giving you a better price.
uh, nah, not really.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, with
Okay.
OA, it's more they're trying to throw coupons at you. With
Yeah.
wholesale, is no.
So you'll get the same price you got back in January, in October, whatnot, for the most part.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, for the most part.
Gotcha. So, what were the primary reasons? And I was really curious about this. So when I first followed you, right, you were really championing OA, and I got a kick out of all your content. And then I saw you go to wholesale. I was like, damn, why you gotta do that, Oscar? Right? Because I really liked your OA content. So I'm really curious, what were the primary reasons that you navigated from OA to wholesale?
A lot of them. In
Yeah.
the beginning, when you're doing OA at a small scale, it's easy to manage, right? You're able to keep track of your inventory, bad
What would you say small
buys.
scale?
Less than six figures a month at least.
Okay.
Probably closer to like 50K or less or so.
Okay.
Uh, but yeah, once you start getting bigger and bigger, it really starts getting kind of annoying to keep track of so much with
Yeah.
OA. Returns, missing units from suppliers, tanking products. I mean, like even right now, I still have a few OA products that literally almost all of them are tanked. Like it's crazy.
Yeah.
So definitely, I say the tanking was the number one reason because
Right.
now as I'm more into wholesale, I'm actually having replans that are actually sticking with me more now versus
Nice.
OA products where we'll try them for a few weeks and then next thing you know, they're not good anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that lifespan for certain listings for OA can suck for sure. Um, so I guess, what is the most significant difference, for better or worse, have you realized from OA to wholesale? If you can provide some just series of advantages that you've experience strictly with wholesale as it pertains to disadvantage to OA? Because I know you were going through the price tanking and stuff, but how about the advantages of wholesale?
Yeah, I mean, less competition. I
Okay.
mean, like with the OA stuff, you kind of see 20 plus, 100 plus people on one listing. With wholesale, probably no more than 20, if even that much, and even 20 is too much. So, uh,
Yeah.
10 people max.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. I figured the competition would be one of the driving reasons, but I've also heard that even in wholesale, prices can tank due to competition. Is that true? Do you find experience that a lot? It sounds like you don't have much experience of that.
I have. It does happen. So from time to time, just not as much compared to OA. So like probably for every one that happens in wholesale, you'll have like 20 in OA that happen or so.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So what about some disadvantages with wholesale that you've experienced that you kind of miss about OA?
Definitely the Rakuten money,
Oh yeah, yeah.
the
No doubt.
cash back.
Right.
Uh, that I say probably OA was maybe a bit more hands off in a way,
Mm.
since you
Oh
can kind
really?
of outsource some of that.
Okay.
Because with wholesale, it's more like you have to manage more. Like I don't have a warehouse, but since I have my own like preppers in house and stuff, you kind of have to manage more personally with actual employees and stuff versus
I
like
see.
with OA, you can kind of have a more hands off approach, right?
Okay. Okay. Well, I guess sounds like so you have your warehouse. Everything's done prep in house. It sounds like.
Yeah, correct.
Okay. So you don't outsource your wholesale business to a prep center.
No.
Oh, okay. So was that a the bottom line was more profitable in that route? Is that why?
Uh, yeah, profitable, better control of our inventory.
Mhm.
Because I actually have someone that kind of manages that aspect now more, so I'm not even like in there as much managing even the inventory myself. So it's kind of
Okay.
mostly hands off too.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I would agree with you. I think because I'm around 40K and it's already like getting to the point where some things kind of slip through the cracks, you know.
Yeah.
Um it's sometimes I feel like I'm spending more time like talking to my prep center about like, hey, what didn't show up and something came up
Mm.
damaged. I would imagine even with wholesale, right? You get a lot of shipments, but at least it's just one ASIN, I guess, right? You're speaking with one direct entity rather than dealing with all these different retailers. Is that more easier part of it when there is something that comes up damaged or missing?
Oh yeah, way easier for sure. Like if it's one ace, and sometimes we'll at least know exactly what we're missing or if something came broken. Versus with like if you're making multiple shipments, you kind of just going through each box, hoping
Right.
that everything's in there. So yeah, it makes
Okay.
it much easier.
So knowing what you know now with wholesale, in hindsight, would you have started from the very beginning with wholesale? Assuming you had the capital, would you have started wholesale over OA?
Yeah, if I had the capital and it wasn't a big issue, I would probably definitely start off with wholesale more.
Okay. Okay. And I hope you don't mind me asking you OA stuff too. I think it would be great because I'm sure a lot of
Yeah,
people are
that's
watching
fine.
this. I feel like there's still a larger percentage of people that are OA too. And I know you were a beast with OA as well. So during in the midst of your OA business, how much time were you spending sourcing, and how much time do you think a new seller should be sourcing?
So let's see. Sourcing was, I mean, in the beginning, I definitely put in my hours, right? Like I would get out of my job and literally from like 5 till 12 a.m., sometimes 1 a.m. in the morning, I'll just be learning and sourcing stuff. But that's just me. I'm that
Right,
like driven. I'm that driven myself. But
right,
for someone else who may not be and they just kind of want to definitely put in some work, I say at least 2 3 hours max every day if possible.
right. And you say other people. I honestly think if you're not that driven, especially with coming into Amazon, I feel like more than likely you'll end up giving up anyways. And
Mm.
that's kind of I attribute that back to what I was saying. Like when I had a company prior, we sold it off, but like all that was spent. Most of my time during that company was spent thinking about how we can produce ads, how we can get more clicks, and I can appreciate this model so much more now because I don't have to deal with any of that. That's so much stress involved. This is just learning. I don't have to spend money to learn. I can just keep looking at listings, meticulously looking at keeper charts and learning. So I think if you're coming in as a new Amazon seller, you have to be that driven, in my opinion, especially the first 3 months, because I'm sure you get those DMs where it's like, hey, I spent 2-3 hours sourcing and couldn't find anything. All right. It's like,
Oh yeah.
it's just like, well, do 6 hours, like
Yeah.
what's the answer going to be, so, okay. So during OA, what was your most effective methods of sourcing?
Well, back in the day, it was reverse sourcing, storefront stalking or whatever they call it these days. That was definitely the golden way to source.
Right.
These days, I probably wouldn't even rely on that method anymore. But
Right.
number one is always going to be manual sourcing, regardless if it's OA, wholesale, or whatever. It's always going to be the best method.
I think it always ends up being manual. Like for me, it's like all about finding a site that you get familiar with, but you don't find those sites until you reverse source and kind of meander your way through it. And you're not going to get there until you meticulously go through all the listings, right?
Yeah.
Um, so I remember last year you were, really championing spending time and investing your time into sourcing during Q4. So can you tell me, last year, I think your Q4 was a success. How did you prepare for Q4, and what advice would you give to new sellers during this time of the year?
Yeah, so I think this will be my fourth Q4 coming up now. So
Okay.
at this point, we just really prepare doubling down on our best ASINs now. So like
Okay.
right now I got like 5 to 10 aces that are performing really well. So all I'm really going to be doing is buying like double, triple the amount of inventory for those ASINs and just hoping we sell out pretty well, which we probably will. But as far as like advice for new sellers, uh, definitely be careful with your cash flow. Don't overspend too much if you're not 100% sure that it'll work out because especially with toys and stuff, right? Like you got to be careful with so many offer count going up. You definitely want to overstock on supplies like tape, boxes, whatever you think you need. You should probably get double that amount, anyways.
Right.
Uh, and just be ready to FBM. I haven't read fully the Amazon storage capacity yet, but I'm pretty sure it'll get cut off, and you'll only have a limited amount of FBA space to send in. So be ready to put in some FBM work as well.
Right. Right. So during right now your wholesale business, what are there certain categories that you kind of prefer selling in, and is it different than how you looked at OA? I'd imagine there's some same similarities, right? Like you probably go with the categories that have less return rates and et cetera. Could you just kind of expand on that?
Yeah, and you're right. As far as categories, it's kind of the same in either model you go. We've always been grocery, beauty type of categories ourselves.
Okay.
So, yeah, the return rate's pretty low on those two categories for us. And yeah, they've worked.
Okay. Um, so beauty, you don't see a lot of returns with beauty.
Not too
That's
much. More than groceries, but not as much.
yeah, that's crazy. Like, I feel like I must be an anomaly because most of my beauty, or not most of them, definitely way better than apparel and stuff. But I tend to have a little more uptick on my beauty returns than like health and household and stuff like that. But I find that no one else relates to that than me. So I don't know why. Maybe I don't know why. It's weird, but that's great. That's great. So um, for a new seller who wants to dabble into wholesale, can you just kind of enumerate the different types of documents that they need to be equipped with before they start contacting distributors and brands?
Yeah, so you'll need to. Well, you don't need to be, but I would highly advise you either be an S corp or an LLC at the least.
Mm-hmm.
You want to look as a legitimate business to businesses, right? So you need to sign up for an EIN number, which is like a business social security number, and you'll also need a reseller's permit, or
Mm-hmm.
it might be called something else depending on the state. But I know here in
Right.
Texas, that's what we call it. So, but as far as documents, that's really all you'll need.
Right. Yeah, and then that resale license you got to file quarterly, which I did not realize last year, and I was like late. And I was like, oh shit, dude. Um, but yeah, awesome, awesome. So when you started venturing into wholesale, what were your various types of ways and methods of finding distributors, and did one method work better than the other?
Yeah, so there's different ways, using Google, which is number one. Trying LinkedIn, trying Yellow Pages, and even driving around any industrial park business areas, which has been my most effective way of finding suppliers, is actually driving around some of the companies and seeing them in person.
Mm, okay. So the distributor relationships that you have right now, were they all conducted through person contact, or did you call them?
I mean, I've called all of them, but I've also told them we're here locally too, so it wasn't too hard to really open those accounts.
Okay. So can you walk me through the first one you found? Because I think the very first relationship or contract or distributor that you find is probably the most toughest one, because I'm sure after you find one, more than likely you have a relationship with them, some cachet, and maybe you can get some more products. So how were you able to find that very first one?
Uh, Google actually, I just typed in like I think it was home decor wholesaler or something like that, and I just like
Uh,
opened up a few tabs, checked some out, see if they were legitimate, and I ended up applying for an account and I filled out the form and got approved. Really,
how do you differentiate a legitimate one from something that doesn't seem legitimate?
uh, one of the first things is definitely you shouldn't be able to see their pricing online
Okay.
because they should only be selling to businesses, not just everyday people. So that's one
Mm,
way. Another way, they should be requiring an EIN number or your reseller's permit from you as well, or both. So it just depends on the supplier on that too, though. But those are the main things you should be looking for.
okay. And is there any kind of advice you can give when people are calling or meeting with them? Just some things that you want to approach the sales rep with before you start kind of negotiating about price.
Yeah. I mean, as far as like you mean like open an account at least,
I
just
guess like how let's say you found a distributor with good ASINs. You don't know the price yet, so you don't know if the catalog's profitable or not. But how would you first approach a phone call or even meeting them? Like how walk me through your approach to that.
yeah, so I mean, I'll just pick up the phone and chances are you're gonna talk to a clerk or someone first. So I'll usually
Okay.
just be like, hello, may I speak to whoever's in charge of opening a wholesale account with you guys? And from there,
Uh,
they'll direct you or give you even their phone numbers.
okay.
Uh, and so from there, you just hit them up, call them, and be like, hey, I'm Oscar, owner of such and such company.
Mhm.
Uh, we do blank amount of revenue per year. We spend this amount. If you can mention how much you're willing to spend on inventory, that'll actually open their ears because
Right. Okay.
they'll hear all that money that you're probably gonna spend with them, maybe. So, but
Right.
after that, we'll just be like, hey, we heard that you carry such and such brands and wanted to see if we can open an account with you guys or request a catalog, right?
Mhm.
And then just go from there, and then from there they'll let you know more details. So, but just something short and simple. Don't overcomplicate it either. Don't mention Amazon if you don't have to mention Amazon or anything.
Okay. So you been turned down multiple times by mentioning Amazon, or do you just try never to mention Amazon unless they obviously might ask directly, correct?
Yeah, I mean, I don't straight up front tell them, "Hey, I'm an Amazon seller." You
Right.
definitely don't want to do that. I'm more approaching of like we're a distribution network, and we sell on multiple platforms. Uh,
Okay.
but yeah, I mean, if they ask about Amazon, I'll be honest about it, and
Mhm.
if they don't, then we'll just proceed forward. Really.
Have you been turned down directly due to mentioning, well, not mentioning, but when they ask you and you reply and tell them that you're going to be selling on Amazon, is that one of the deal breakers for them?
On phone, surprisingly, not as much, but through
Okay.
email, yes.
Interesting. Okay. Okay. So, when you are reaching out to a distributor like that you found, let's say you Googled and whatnot, do you always recommend picking up the phone, calling them, even if they are very responsive via email?
Yeah, I would definitely
Okay.
try to call, because they're receiving hundreds of emails every day, and chances are they're not going to see yours.
Okay. So tell the viewers like how difficult it is to find a profitable catalog, because I know it's pretty easy. I wouldn't say easy, but it's relatively easy opening accounts, but it's the catalogs, right, that are difficult to scour and find profitable ASINs. Is that right?
Yeah, it's definitely time consuming for sure, especially if they have like thousands of products. I mean, the one account we opened a few weeks ago, they had like over 30,000 products to go through. So that was a
Okay.
huge catalog.
So I'm sure you use some sort of software and program for that aspect, right? So can you kind of go through what all softwares and whatnot that you use during your plight with wholesale?
Yeah, so if they offer like spreadsheets, Google Sheets, we'll use something like Scan Unlimited
Hmm.
to filter out some things on there.
Okay.
Uh, and we'll use Scan Unlimited just to see if we find anything that's profitable up front. So we'll put
Okay.
our criteria and just see if anything pulls up, right? So, and if it shows something, then we'll proceed manual sourcing the rest of the catalog. And if it doesn't, then we'll kind of probably just skip that supplier entirely. Uh,
Mm.
but if they don't have a catalog for its spreadsheet or Excel, then we'll just manual source the entire site.
Okay. Gotcha. Um, so you mentioned criteria, right? So what is your buying criteria with wholesale, and is it? Let's go through that first. What's your buying criteria with wholesale as of right now?
Yeah. If it's just a quick label, the velocity is good, dollar minimum, uh,
Okay.
ROI at least 15% minimum.
Okay.
But again, if it's super fast, I mean, we're okay with that. If it's like
Okay.
a bundle, 2 pack, sometimes $2 to $3, it just depends. At least 20 to 25% ROI.
Okay. Um, and is there what about like the seller's rank? Is there a minimum seller's rank that you're looking for when you look for a high velocity that determines that dollar amount profit that you're looking for?
As far as rank, I mean, as long as probably less than 10,000 at least.
Okay. Okay. Wow. So it is flying then. Huh?
Yeah.
Okay. Um, so what are three really important tasks that a new seller should focus on when they're going through the wholesale model? If you had to pin it down, the three most important tasks that they should perfect, what would those three be?
Yeah, for wholesale, definitely learn Keepa, master Keepa, like
Okay.
read
So Cuba's
Keepa
never
every
going away, pretty much.
day. Second, if you're opening wholesale accounts, focus on the relationship with your sales rep for sure. That's going to be your biggest advantage in wholesale is, getting real close with your suppliers.
Mhm.
And number three, be impatient because sourcing through those catalogs can be very time consuming. And
I bet.
if you're if you're not patient with it, you're gonna quit, like no doubt.
Yeah, if you're already getting tired of sourcing 2 hours a day for OA, it sounds like wholesale is a whole other animal when it comes to patience. Right?
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
So when you were analyzing listings with Keepa through the wholesale model, how is it different? Would you say that it is analyzing a listing when you were in the OA lens?
uh, so there's not much difference. I say the main difference is definitely seeing sellers review counts more because with wholesale, your feedback does play more into getting the buy box versus kind of like OA RA. So
Okay.
that's one aspect I definitely like to look at when it comes to looking at listings because you'll see some Keepa charts where it'll show one seller getting like 90% buy box and they have like six-figure reviews on their storefront. So uh, that's something we take into consideration deeply. Even if it sells like 1,000 units a month, we'll still buy like 20 units minimum just to not go too deep because of that buy box percentage.
I see. So I guess on a particular listing where it's apparent that there's a bunch of wholesalers on that listing, how because I know you're saying relatively most wholesale listings they're not tanking. So is there some way that you're not communicating, but how does the price hold so well when the listing is just a bunch of wholesalers?
Yeah, I mean, I'm guessing just the buy box rotates pretty well for everybody, right? So
Okay.
and everybody's just getting a little piece of the pie until they sell out or just kind of something like that because unlike
Yeah.
with OA, the more sellers you get, the more buy box rotation you're losing because of more sellers. So
Okay.
at least with wholesale, you kind of get a chance of actually selling some products and you don't have the need to tank it as much.
I see. So when you go on certain listings and you have your distributor, um, are more than likely the other sellers on that listing are also going through your distributor that you found, or they're just sporadically from other distributors?
Some of them, yeah, it looks like it might be from different suppliers
Okay.
because when we're storefront stocking some of them,
I figured,
our
yeah, you go look on their store and like, oh, this guy's definitely buying from here, right?
yeah, you can kind of tell which suppliers they're probably buying or not buying from. So
Okay. So your suppliers, they're all from distributors, right? None of it's brand direct. I'm sure it's really difficult to get a brand direct contact.
We got two brands we work with,
Oh shit, nice.
but the majority is distributors though.
Okay. So when you got this deal with the brand directly, was it a different approach than just another distributor?
Yeah, with brands it's definitely more different, right? Because with distributors, all they care about is moving their inventory. They really don't care who they sell to, so
Right.
it's much easier with them. With brands, they're more emotionally attached to their products. They
Mhm.
care about the reputation about it, so they kind of just don't want to sell to anybody selling their products.
Right. I think getting a deal like that with the brand direct is like the holy grail because then you know damn well if any issues arose, you have an invoice from the brand themselves and they can give you that authorization letter, you know. So that's awesome. That's awesome. I'm sure that's probably what you prefer, right? Would be brand direct. You probably get a better rate with them too because you're not going through a middleman.
Yeah, and sometimes it depends because there are some brands where it's actually much cheaper with distributors. So,
Really? Oh, okay.
yeah,
That would make sense actually. Okay.
just
Distributors are
because,
probably buying way more from the brand, right? I imagine.
yeah, exactly.
Okay. Okay. Gotcha. Gotcha. So since you've done both OA and wholesale, now that you've been in OA, you've already told me kind of some of the pitfalls of new sellers that go into online arbitrage. As it pertains to wholesale, what do you think is the largest pitfall for Amazon sellers who attempt the wholesale model? Because I know you have a group and stuff like that, and we'll go over that later on. But I'm sure you have members in there that are probably stuck and whatnot. So what was the number one thing that new wholesalers get stuck on?
Finding suppliers. That's
Yeah,
the number one thing. Finding
yeah,
suppliers.
okay. And within that finding suppliers, is it because they're not putting enough time, or are they just scared to pick up the phone? Are they scared to meet with them directly? What could it be?
I say probably a mix of both of the things you just mentioned. So a lot of them kind of expect Google to kind of give them the supplier right away on the first page. So,
Mm-hmm.
but you got to scout through the second, third, 10th, 11th page.
Mm-hmm.
You got to try different keywords. Just because you type in Texas grocery wholesaler does not mean you're going to get every result just for those keywords. You can get more specific. You can try grocery distributor, just different ways. And then calling. I mean, people are really scared to call, which is surprising. So
Yeah. I think calling is not so intimidating as meeting them in person. I feel like calling is honestly it's a blessing because you can make such a good relationship just over the phone. You don't have to meet up with them.
yeah,
That's why I think if you're just I don't do wholesale, but I've had my run with private label, and you have to make a relationship with a lot of avenues in private label. But with
right.
wholesale, if you're just emailing them, I'd imagine they just look at you as a number. Just like you're looking at them as a number when you email them,
Yeah,
right? So
basically.
gotcha. So would you say have you gotten hit with any really stressful issues with wholesale?
Last year we did. We had a supply we were buying pretty good inventory from, but for some reason we had to like stop with them, or they stopped with us actually. So,
It's cold
which
turkey.
kind? Uh,
They just stopped selling to you just out of nowhere, no reasoning.
yeah, I mean there was some issues going on their end, so we had to stop. Which really sucked because around that time that supplier was probably like 60% of our business
Oh
actually.
wow.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
we had to really adapt pretty big time from there. So
Yeah, that sucks. It should naturally you would think you have such a good relationship with them that would be long lasting. Where it sounds like for you, just kind of abruptly ended, huh?
yeah, I mean
Okay.
not with the sales rep. Personally, it was more like the company had issues or something. So
Okay. So how did you overcome that? Did you just work harder in finding a new relationship, or what did you do at that time? Did you lost that relationship with them?
yeah, we kind of just doubled more down on OA actually after that, just because we kind of got used to that supplier. So I really didn't put in more work to find new suppliers like that. So that was a big mistake on my end actually.
Huh. Wow. So you have a really good toolbox because it sounds like if something happened with wholesale, like you lost a brand or whatnot, you can always just go back to your OA stomping grounds, if you will, and then just kind of make money off of that until you find, expand your wholesale business again. So
Yeah,
that's a big positive going from OA to wholesale. It's pretty cool. Pretty cool. I also wanted to ask, have you ever had to provide invoices due to inauthentic complaints and stuff like that from distributors where I would imagine an invoice from distributor is almost as good as the brand themselves. But I've also heard that even with distributors' invoices, it can cause issues. Have you had any kind of issues like that?
I think like once, and yeah, I mean Amazon's algorithm or whatever, it's just really dumb sometimes. So, but yeah, I mean, if you got an invoice from a wholesaler, it is way more legit than like a retail receipt or something. So, but
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, aside from like that one time, everything's been pretty good as far as being accepted.
So is it true? Like I would say, let's say you're buying from. I'm trying to think of a beauty brand that I don't know. Let's say you're buying from a really reputable beauty brand retail site, right? And it's the brand themselves. And if you get some sort of inauthentic complaint, you got to provide invoices, not a receipt, but I feel like a brand order confirmation is pretty legitimate, right? Because it's coming straight from the brand.
Right.
Um, Whereas if it's a distributor and you provide the invoice and Amazon rejects it, for me personally, I would be like, what the hell, right? And I've heard that Amazon has their own kind of list of authorized distributors. Do you know anything about that? And does that hold any weight?
Yeah, I've heard of that too, but I've never really like dug deep into that to really say if it's true or not. To be honest, because I've also heard they say that, but they also use that to steal your suppliers and stuff. So I really don't know.
Are you from Amazon to steal your suppliers?
That's what I've heard. Some people say that they'll get like request your invoice to steal the suppliers that you're using.
Oh
So
wow. Oh, so they're like a double agent back there, also selling on Amazon.
yeah,
That
that's
would
what
be
I heard.
interesting. Hey, that would actually be really interesting. you'll just
I
you,
don't know.
you'll just check if you work there. You'll just check if they're selling your listing and just reject their invoice, right?
Yeah. So yeah.
So, how I guess one complaint that I've heard with wholesale, and it's not really a complaint, but it's definitely a disadvantage. And I have that kind of disadvantage with private label is the lead time. So I would imagine for Q4, you're probably trying to buy as early as possible, right? Try to get everything in there as fast as possible. You're probably projecting how much sales you're going to make. So walk me through, like right now, you're probably looking at how much you've sold the past 2 months. How are you gauging how much inventory you have to buy when it comes to projecting the estimated sales that are going to come for Q4?
Yeah, so I mean, it comes down really to spending, right? So if we're spending like 50,000 one month, we can kind of assume we'll double that in revenue,
Double.
assuming we sell most of our inventory. So really, we're just if we want to hit 200K, we'll need to spend around 100K, and
Right.
so we're just looking for the inventory to make up for those numbers, and then just buying that inventory. Really,
Right. Right. And I'm sure with those listening that you mentioned, if you look at a Keeper graph for last year, they're probably just like this, right?
yeah, like little line.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm sure even if you didn't sell out, I'm sure you'll be good for January to sell out.
Yeah.
Um, so you mentioned earlier on when you first started, you didn't have that much capital, or else you would have just started wholesale. So as it stands now, how are you obtaining capital? Is it just straight capital that you profited, or are you still taking business loans out? Do you have a line of credit? Can you walk me through that, please?
Yeah, credit cards have definitely been super helpful. I actually got approved for the Chase Business Premier or
Nice.
something like that.
That's the one with the annual fee, right?
Yeah, that's the one that like if you spend 5,000 on each order, you'll get like more cash back or something. So
Bro. Is it the 750 promo, right?
I
The
think
intro.
so. Yeah,
Nice, nice.
something like that.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, definitely credit cards. We have an Amazon loan as well, but I really don't try to take out loans. Only did it because of Q4 though, so I'm not
Right.
too worried about it. But yeah, mainly just credit cards if possible. I really don't want to overextend myself either too much.
Right. Right. Yeah. I don't know. I think whenever I mention credit cards to just people, it kind of rubs them the wrong way. I've always been one, even with my personal cards, I've always, rotated out credit cards. I just love that shit. I just love getting the promo, 2 years, knock it out, get the new promo, whatever. And well, now that I'm out taking business credit cards, I do the same damn thing to that even more so, right? Because
Right.
that's why when you said that Chase business card, I think so. It's 750 promo, and then during Q4 last year, they upped it to 900, which is just insane because
Wow.
no other credit card is even scratching 750, let alone 900.
Yeah.
And and Chase also lets you, which is crazy to me, because that Premier that you mentioned, that's like in a family of like four other Chase Unlimited cards, right?
Yeah.
And they'll let you get all four, and they'll give you the 750 on all four. So
I didn't know
so
that.
yeah. So you got to do it strategically. Like I would, what I would try to do is I don't like taking loans out unless it's 0% APR. And
Yeah.
if there's enough credit cards out there, if you have good credit, obviously, and you can manage your credit cards, disclaimer, um, you can rotate out like every 1 to 2 years, 0 APR. Um, but you all obviously have to have a good credit score if you want to get it in there. I mean, what good is a 0 APR if you don't give them 5K, right? So yeah, Amazon loan's great because I'm sure you're projecting a lot of sales. Me personally, I just as it stands right now, I'm not taking a loan interest on it. I'm just gonna. I feel like it's gonna
Yeah.
fuck me up. Um, okay, so if knowing what you know now, if the new seller, not you, because you already had a really good business acumen, you already had good drive. Um, the new naive seller, if they were to start and they had, let's say, $10,000, let's go $5,000, new seller on Amazon. Would you recommend them to start on OA, or would you recommend them to start with wholesale?
Yeah. So 5,000. I probably recommend a little OA at least, just to
Mhm.
understand the foundation of Amazon.
Right.
Just sell a few units, learn how to prep your products, how to put a FSQ label, how to deal with the return. Just basic stuff like that. And then once you get the hang of it, and you know how to manage it, then you could definitely transition into wholesale with the rest. So,
Right. Right. Um, yeah, I think jumping right into wholesale would be tough. Like you've already mentioned like lead time and all this other like moving parts with wholesale. And I feel like if you're just starting on Amazon, like people people get so intimidated just to send a box to the Amazon FBA warehouse. So
yeah,
I think when you first start, just hell, even just FBMing some orders, um, I feel like a lot of people they don't really get that confidence until they actually see the sale on their Amazon app.
yeah, like the what do you call it, the proof of concept or whatever. Yeah,
Yeah. Because I think some people are still so like they're not too sure of how Amazon works, and they're not even sure if their shit really will sell.
yeah,
Because it's such a weird concept. A lot of people don't even know about third party sellers. I feel like most people don't.
yeah.
Um, I didn't know about third party sellers until I started getting really into Amazon. So sometimes when there's not a buy box, I'm almost amazed at how sales are still happening because I don't think I would have found that other seller button. So
Yeah, so true.
so okay, how about let's lower it down. Do you believe someone can start selling on Amazon FBA with $1,000?
Yeah, because that was me.
Okay. Okay. So you started with 1,000, no loans, no credit card, and you just piled that up.
Yeah, and even that $1,000, 300 of that went to an LLC here in Texas. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I really only had like 700 bucks, probably even like only 500 after buying a few supplies and stuff. So yeah.
Wow. Okay. So at that time, were you really focused on RA to these really high profitable items?
So I mean, honestly, I did a mix of so much that I kind of just, I don't know. My profits were not like that. Honestly, if I'm being honest, like nobody, like when I started, there was not as much information as there is today.
Yeah.
Like nobody told me, hey, if you do RA, you should be shooting for 50% ROI. I was
Yeah.
more in the mindset of I just need to sell something and make something.
Right. Right. Wow. Okay. So were you doing a lot more RA when you first started rather than OA? Because I'd imagine, like you said, there's not as much information. So you're probably just saying, okay, let me just go and find something profitable, scan it, and go send it to Amazon, right?
Yep. Yeah, I did some RA. Yeah.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So what was that breakthrough moment? Because I'm sure you were starting to sell on Amazon. You hadn't taken it seriously initially. So was there something that happened where you were just like, oh shit, well I can really start making some money here, right? Because at that time you still had a job, right? You had a 9 to 5 job. But there had to be some time where it gave you that confidence that you're like, okay, I'm going to leave this job now. I'm ready to leave the job.
Yeah, my head boss had pissed me off pretty bad one day, so that really kind of motivated me to be like, yeah, I need to do something about just my life in general, and not, be somewhere in a position where someone gets mad at me for whatever reason, and I really can't do much about it. And so that's where Amazon really started going in there more.
So for someone who feels like they're stuck at a dead end job and whatnot, is there some sort of, not a formula, but is there some sort of number that you would advise them to hit, or like profitable wise, or just maybe a ratio of their bills versus their profits, some sort of numerical advice that you'd give them before they opt and dip on their job?
Uh, yeah, so it depends on your situation, right? If you got a family, like, cause I got a family, so even when I quit, I still had to really double think about it.
Right.
Uh, you definitely want to be more careful if you have responsibilities aside from like just bills, right?
Mm,
Uh, because if it's like just a regular 20-year-old, no responsibilities, you can kind of take that risk more quicker and just really
right.
go all in. But as far as like a numeric number, I would really shoot for at least double your profits, what you're making from your job. So let's say if you get paid 4,000 a month at your job, I would shoot for 8,000, 6,000 minimum.
Mm,
Just because Amazon's a real cash flow heavy intense game, and you can't guarantee that you'll sell your products all of it on the next month every single month. So
right.
definitely something to think about.
Right. That's a good. Generally speaking, I think that you hit it on the target there, 6 to 8,000. It really depends on where you live too. Like if you're in California,
Yeah,
I'm sure it's crazy. But you're right. If they're just some 20-year-old living at the parents' house, then yeah, by all means. I think to kind of attribute to what you're saying, if you already have a job, especially if you're working from home and whatnot, uh, I would just take that and let it and supplement the money that you make from your main job or your 9 to 5 job and just put it into Amazon. Um, I would say also, in addition to what you said, go a full year first, because you could make a bunch of money during Q4 and then January hits. January is still decent, but it's nothing like the last 3 months, right?
yeah.
So you make great money for a few months, and then you're like, yeah, I'm gonna quit, and then spring comes around, you're not making half of that. You're like, well, shit, I need my job back. So I think at least 12 months. And you went whole. You were selling for like how many years were you selling Amazon before you quit?
Like full time.
Yeah.
Next month will be my second year actually.
Oh wow. Okay. Awesome. But like, how many years were you into Amazon before you quit your 9 to 5?
Oh, before I quit. Another 2 years because I've been doing this for like 4 years now. So yeah, half
Gotcha.
and half.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay. Um, so for the new Amazon seller, despite if they're doing OA or wholesale, what would you believe to be the most effective way for them to jump to 10K, 20K in sales per month?
Yeah, I mean, just keep learning keep charts, keep testing products, go super wide, not deep. So
Okay.
just because you see a really great keep chart does not mean you buy 100 units,
Yeah.
especially if
Yeah.
you're just a new seller.
Yeah.
Definitely go pretty wide. And just make sure you're keeping track of your spending, your numbers and whatnot, because your spending does correlate to what your numbers will make. So if you want to hit that first 10K, you're going to need to spend at least 5,000 or so on inventory to achieve that number. So as long as you got the capital to do that, then just apply the knowledge and the work, and you'll be able to hit that.
Right. I think what you said too, I think people don't emphasize that enough, is you need to really know your numbers, because the first few months I was selling, I wasn't really keeping track of my numbers until I got seller board.
Yeah.
And that was really an effective way to kind of see what was actually making money. All right. So being that point, is there a message or advice that you can give to new sellers that you think is just not as discussed as much in the Amazon community that you think should be?
Yeah, probably like the numbers, like we mentioned, keeping track of your numbers, make sure you're actually profitable, because on social media we talk so much about orange bars, which at the end of the day they don't mean nothing, right? You actually really got to look at your profit margins and make sure you're making a profit. So,
Right.
and even if that means lower orange bars, right? I mean, because someone could be hitting six-figure months, but they're making $10,000, or I mean not 10,000, but like maybe $1,000 after everything. So
Right.
definitely want to just keep your margins really good.
Right. And that, again, that's kind of why I really appreciated your content, because it was more authentic. And I think people that just kind of come on Amazon, they just see a bunch of bars and
Yeah.
they're not really realizing, there's no transparency there. Like you're looking at, not looking at, but you should really follow people that are being authentic and showing their profit losses, because you never know. Like you said, someone keeps showing bars of 100,000, they made $0 that month, right?
Yeah.
So awesome, awesome. So I wanted to ask you kind of it's Amazon related, but just what is your new take on new sellers that are hesitant to start selling due to just horror stories of account deactivation? Because I feel like lately it's been more prevalent, just seeing people's account just get deactivated, and I think
Right.
sometimes it is Amazon, because it's happened to me on one of my private label accounts, but we eventually got our account back. Just to kind of summarize what happened there, for some reason they banned our buyer's account. We've never bought anything on that
Wow.
account ever, but and because they banned the buyer account, the seller account also got banned, and so
So,
weird. But we got, after all these back and forth messages trying to get it reinstated, they refused until we posted on the BBB, the Better Business Bureau. Then they reinstated it. Really odd. And I found this
oh,
by scouring Reddit forum. And I found this
wow.
little ass thread of this guy who said he did it. Anyways, all that to say, sometimes it is Amazon's fault. But what's your take on that whole scenario, that fiasco going on?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing too, right? Like Amazon is a business. I mean, a business is already risky enough in itself. So, uh, and not just Amazon, right? Any business. It could be a YouTube channel. It could be a Discord. Everything comes with some form of risk. Even a job has some risk, right? You say
Right.
the wrong thing because of the wrong person, you're fired. So,
Right.
uh, with that being said, just you have to be willing to accept the risks that come with anything in life. So the
Right.
minute you sign up for that seller account, you're also accepting the risk that they could deactivate your account. I mean, hopefully not, right? You don't hope it does, but you also risk that happening down the road. So, and for situations like that, I always tell people, try to save some money or have a
Sure.
retainer on hand, like Riverbank Consulting or Jeff Schick, like a lawyer on hand, some capital, just for situations like that. Because if you don't prepare yourself for something like that, that maybe could happen, then
Mhm.
you really, get screwed over like that. So,
Right. Yeah. No, I think yeah, what you're basically saying is diversify your money. And it's hard though, like for new sellers, because they only have so much money, and if they don't put all that, I doubt they even have enough for that retainer. You know,
yeah,
um,
that's true.
uh, I would say so for you and your wholesale business. Are you thinking about also diversifying that with like Walmart and stuff? Has that ever been a thought?
I've thought about it, but I don't know. I haven't really dug too much into like Walmart, but I do see that it works though. So,
Okay.
uh, for now, we'll probably just keep scaling wholesale. I'm hoping to reach seven-figure numbers monthly.
Okay.
So until that happens, I probably really won't focus on anything else at the moment. But who knows down the road?
Okay. So for someone who's excelled in both OA and wholesale, do you believe in 2023 selling on Amazon is still a lucrative business? Even and I want you also to consider Amazon state as far as saturation, demand, and customers. What say you about that?
Yeah, I mean, customers have just been shopping more on Amazon the past few years, so
Right.
they're just going to continue on. So there's still more opportunities out there.
Mhm.
As far as like saturation and whatnot, I mean, it has its ebbs and flows, right? 1 minute listings are tanking, but then a lot of sellers sell out and then they're profitable again. So it just ebbs and flows, really, like
Mhm.
usual. I mean, I see this every year now at this point. It's just part of the game. So
Yeah.
as long as you can manage it and move forward, it's always going to be a good business.
So what do you say to so new sellers are hesitant to sell on Amazon because they fear saturation?
Yeah, I mean it's part of the game, so it happens even at a bigger scale. It's still happening, so just learn from those mistakes, see what you can do better. Maybe you're ready to keep a chart wrong and just buy something else that with better buying decisions.
Right. Yeah. And then, I think saturation is in a lot of different ways. In any business model that you go in outside of Amazon in 2023, more than likely it's pretty saturated. And
Yeah,
it, if it's not saturated, it's about to be.
Yeah.
So I think it's we're in the Amazon space, so we feel like everyone knows Amazon, but we're really a small percentage as it pertains to the whole population. Like, not I feel like not a lot of people really know about selling on Amazon. And the ones that do know about it, they haven't even taken action. So you're still, in the grand scheme of things, a small percentage. So I think saturation is pretty relevant when you bring all that into play. So,
Yeah. Plus, most new sellers will end up quitting anyway, so there's really not
right,
as much competition.
right. Have you seen a decline in competition from same time last year? Have you seen incline?
Uh,
What's your take on that?
it depends on the social media platform. So on Instagram, I definitely saw a decline. There's not much activity like there was last year.
Mhm.
Whereas on Twitter, there's actually been a new like burst of people coming into the game. So yeah, I think it just again ebbs and flows. So yeah.
Yeah. So I've been seeing content from people saying that they see less competition with OA. Maybe I haven't noticed it. Maybe I've just been looking at so many damn keeper graphs that I just haven't even like noticed it. But maybe
Right.
that holds true. I honestly would think that it's always gonna be increasing. Like, I feel like there's gonna be more people coming on than people dropping off. Um, but I don't know. That's interesting. Good to know your take on that. Um, okay, so kind of conclude this with the last few questions here. Again, not really Amazon related. Um,
Yeah.
but what is your future goals with selling on Amazon? I know because you've already done OA, you've already done wholesale. Is your final goal being a number? Is your final goal somewhat providing information to other people, courses, whatnot? Because we've got this fun discussion about how you can have your whole brand account deactivated and you need to have some sort of backup just in case. So that's why I think it's good if you have the information, you have good intentions to sell the information. So what are all your goals with Amazon in the future?
Yeah. So like I mentioned earlier, definitely want to try to hit 7 figures monthly.
Mhm.
As far as like any course and stuff, I mean, I do have a Discord group
Mhm.
that I launched maybe a month or so not too long ago.
Okay.
Uh, I probably will try to work on that long term for sure, just to really help anybody who needs it, uh, and so really try to build up that community and actually have people who are serious about trying to do wholesale and really just help them really grow their business. So yeah.
Okay. So can you talk about that group? So is it strictly wholesale? Is it hybrid, or how is your group deviated?
It's strictly wholesale, but I mean, I've had a few people who wanted like OA stuff in it, so I don't know. Maybe I'll add some OA channels in there if people really want it. But I really want to just stick to wholesale personally. But
Okay.
if OA helps you lead into wholesale, then I may consider something like that. So
Okay. So can anyone join that group, or is there an X amount of people that can join? Can you just kind of give me some more information about your group?
yeah, I mean, it's just a monthly pay subscription, $100. I mean, if you're willing to learn, you're more than welcome in there. I mean,
Okay.
no biggies whatsoever. So
Okay.
yeah, I mean, if you're serious, then I'll take you serious as a student and whatnot, and really try to teach you in there. Plus, it has course content in there, tons of videos that you can go over just to get like a lot of the basics out the way and really learn some of the stuff in there beforehand.
Okay. So it's $100 a month, and so it sounds like there's a course in that group as well as you're coaching them as well.
Yeah,
Is that-
so we have weekly Zoom calls. If you need like one-on-one separate, there's that option as well. Just let me know ahead of time. And then we'll try to have weekly guests on there, other wholesalers that they'll break down some of their business model and
Oh,
some
cool.
tips they may have. So yeah, just a lot of stuff like that in there.
Okay. Okay. So the people that are joining in your group, are they majority brand new sellers that have never sold on Amazon before, or are they OA sellers that are migrating into wholesale?
Definitely seeing more OA trying to go into wholesale, so which I think
Okay.
is good
Yeah.
because
Easier for you, I think. A little easier.
yeah, I mean, yeah, and that, and it makes the transition much easier because then you have most of the foundation already set as far as like BAs and stuff, and then just going into wholesale will make it so much easier.
Okay. Okay. And let's go ahead and then if you could promo your YouTube and Instagram, where people can find you if they want to find more information about you.
Yeah, yeah. So on Instagram, I believe it's Oscar Martinez _817. And then on YouTube is just Oscar Martinez. Honestly, you could just type in like Amazon, and I'm pretty sure it'll pop up. So
Sweet, sweet. And your YouTube it's focused now. I think originally it was more OA stuff. Now it's migrated into more strictly wholesale content. Is that right?
yeah, I'm doing a little of wholesale and then just generic Amazon tips. So even if you're doing OA, some of the generic stuff in there could probably help you out a lot too. So
Okay, awesome. Well, Oscar, thank you so much for coming on and answering all my questions. Like I said, I knew when you were coming on, I was pretty excited to pick your brain because most people that I interviewed, it's usually just 100% OA. So the fact that you had both, in your repertoire, I know people are watching this video will get great value out of you. And I'll, to everyone watching, I'll post his Instagram app as well as his YouTube link below. If you guys have any questions, comments, comment down here, and then if you go to Oscar's Instagram, I believe the Discord group, is it in your link in your bio?
yeah, I just updated it the other day, so yeah, it should be there.
Okay. Well, even if you're not going to join his group, follow him on Instagram. Great, great, great information. Really authentic information, transparent. When you're first selling on Amazon, I really feel like you want to follow the transparent people. It's already hard enough when you're starting to sell, and then if you're following someone that's disingenuous, it's going to make the situation worse, right? So, anyways, Oscar, thanks again for coming on, man. I appreciate you coming on.
No, thank you for having me, man.